Minister, thanks for giving us your time today. We appreciate it. Can we start with the conflict in the Middle East, where the situation has been intensifying steadily? How do you feel that the international community should respond to Iran's missile attack on Israel?
The international community should continue to call for cessation of fire and hostilities, firstly in Gaza and the West Bank, because it's the source of the problem. We need to deal with the source and be able to move towards the two-state solution as called by the United Nations, which we believe should be the anchor to the resolution of the whole dispute. But overall, we call for cessation and de-escalation by all parties involved in the conflict, in particular the State of Israel, and all the parties must exercise restraint with regards to the likelihood of escalation of hostilities in the Middle East.
So South Africa's calling for a two-state solution. What can the country do to help end this conflict?
Is the continuation of the diplomatic efforts from all angles, the peace initiative already that has been initiated in Qatar, and also the United Nations Security Council. There must be pressure to ensure that all parties come to the party, they agree to a particular formula, a peace roadmap that they can all converge upon. Nothing can beat diplomacy, negotiations and engagements by the warring parties.
You mentioned the United Nations. Israel has declared UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres persona non grata. They've criticised him for failing to forcefully condemn Iran's latest missile attack. They barred him from entering the country as well. Do you think that this means that the measures that the UN can take to try and help to end this conflict are now severely limited?
Yeah, I think that was very unfortunate. You cannot, there's no member state of the UN who can declare the Secretary General a persona non grata. The Secretary General of the UN must be able to access any place, must be able to help in conflict zones, must be able to send special envoys. And when you look at the issue, in reality, the way he responded to the matter was justified, because I mean Iran's response, in all fairness, it was measured. It was in the context of forcing everyone, the international community, to force an engagement, to force the cessation of hostilities amongst all the parties, and to call for the State of Israel to de-escalate the military operations and to cease fire, which we continue to call for, that there must be cessation of hostilities in the entirety of the Middle East by all the parties that are involved.
If we can look now to the Ukraine, that conflict started more than 2 years ago. There's been a huge loss of life, and despite huge international support for President Zelensky from many countries, there's still no end in sight. How do you see this conflict ending?
As you will be aware, from the onset, South Africa called for cessation of hostility, for cessation of military operation and engagement by all the parties engaged to find a peaceful solution. And our president led what was called an Africa Peace Initiative, where he engaged with President Zelensky and also engaged with President Putin. We have also went further to participate in the peace formula that is currently happening in the Ukraine. And we have raised the issue that we think the time is now ripe for Ukraine to invite Russia in the peace initiative, to be able to engage with everyone towards a peaceful solution, even in that context. We have also, as you will be aware, during the margins of UNGA, participated in the Friends for Peace, an initiative that was initiated by Brazil and China. And we think that the international community should never get tired to call for peace, to call for engagement between the two sovereign states.
Let's talk now about South Africa. It's approaching 4 months since the ANC was forced to form a government of national unity after losing that controlling majority in the country. There was speculation at the time that South Africa could be plunged into turmoil. That hasn't happened. How hard has it been to hold this government together, and what have been the biggest challenges?
It has been coming together very well. A very good foundation has been laid. There are challenges that arise from time to time. As you are aware now, we have got a challenge with regards to the Bella Bill that is aimed to regulate the basic education space and the NHI in relations to universal health access as called for by the World Health Organizations. There's a sticking point there that we are hopeful they will be resolved. But all in all, the government of national unity has been working very well. We're operating, we're able to take decisions, and we're able to take the country forward with one main objective: to resolve the triple challenges of our country: unemployment, inequality, and poverty. At the center, we want to see economic growth, and that is why we're here in London to engage with the government of the UK, to also engage with the investment community here in the UK to invest in South Africa. And we have received a very good positive feedback from the government and also from the investment community.
There's a lot of different voices involved in the national unity government, a lot of different perspectives. What can the government do? What is the government doing in South Africa to ensure that the policies that you put forward are coherent rather than a patchwork of ideas designed to kind of appease all those different parties?
As we are aware, we are coalescing around a statement of intent, and the first strategic plan session on the MTSF plan going forward has been agreed upon, and we continue to participate in various strategic policy discussions where we find each other. And it's not about appeasing each other, it's about working for the people of South Africa, which we are doing.
You mentioned a moment ago one of the reasons you're here in the UK is to try and encourage investment, encourage businesses to be interested in South Africa. Stability, of course, is key to growing any economy. What's your message to foreign companies who are thinking about investing in the country now?
Is that South Africa is open for business. There is political stability in South Africa. We have also emerged from the 6th elections, which were free and fair, and that South Africa still has an independent judiciary, a free press, all the amenities that goes with the constitutional democracy. We still enjoy them, and South Africa is ready to welcome international investment into our country. We are looking forward to achieve 2%, above 2% of economic growth in 2 consecutive years, starting in 2025. And investment from the international community is what we need, which we believe can help us catapult to achieve this objective.
Businesses are among those who have struggled over the last 17 years or so due to power cuts, regular power cuts that have been happening in the country. There are now signs, though, that things could be improving, working properly and being more regular. Can the government guarantee a reliable supply to investors who want to do their business in South Africa?
We are now at 200 days without any power cut. So it's clear that the power cuts could be now a thing of the past. There is clear reliability of energy supply. There is also a clear path and plan from our energy generator. But also, as you are aware, we are part of the energy mix in South Africa, where renewables, clean sources of energy have also come into the grid. And there is now a new transmission company that has been registered, which we are looking forward. It will now work on building the transmission in our country, which will further resolve the energy challenges. But it does look like we've seen the dark days of energy challenges. We are now in the positive side, and I think from here our economy can grow, and we can also see gradual positive signs of also resolving the challenges in the logistics sector, Transnet, and our ports of entry. So there is positivity in our economy, and if we resolve these challenges within the network industries, we believe that our economy can be able to grow at above 2%.
I mean, that is one of the areas that appears to be improving significantly. You've got reason to be pleased with that. Meanwhile, those South African troops are currently in the DRC to help ensure stability in that country. Now, there have been reports suggesting that they don't have all the equipment that they need, the right kind of training, the right kind of logistical support to fight effectively. Are those reports right?
We continue to supply our armed forces in the DRC with the necessary tools that they need, tools of trade, and we continue to participate in the mission with one aim: to stabilize the area and to encourage for the Luanda process, which is aimed to ensure that all the parties led by the president of Angola, President Lorenzo, which is aimed to ensure that all the warring factions are brought on the political engagements to find a long-lasting solution, because we believe that military intervention won't solve this problem. It will have to be solved in the political negotiations.
Well, you make that point. There have been concerns that questions over whether those troops should even be there in the first place in the DRC, concerns over costs, the amount it's costing to have the military there versus how it could be spent on other issues you mentioned. When there are so many problems back home, how do you justify South African troops being there?
They cannot be cost to human life, attached to the value of human life. South Africa has a responsibility in the SADC region and also in the African continent to see peace in the SADC region. We also have a responsibility to see peace in the African continent. And there will be no prosperity in South Africa without prosperity in SADC and in the African region. So it is against this background that it is important that South Africa plays a role for peace, security and stability in the whole continent, to ensure that people all over the continent are able to be in a safe and secure place. Their economies can grow. In this way, there will also be economic growth in South Africa, and there will be prosperity for everyone.
Let's just turn now to China. How do you approach that relationship? How will you approach that relationship moving forward as foreign minister? And what sort of key opportunities have you identified with China?
China, as you will be aware, in the last visit, the relationship between South Africa and China has been upgraded by President Xi into an all-round strategic partnership. It's a relationship of trust, which is mutually beneficial, with the Chinese companies having invested a lot in our country. We are looking at beneficiation in our country, value add in South Africa, and also local manufacturing, which we believe can help drive our economy. And as South Africa is a gateway to the African continent, companies that invest in our country, they also have access to the continent as a whole. So we continue to welcome and invite Chinese companies to continue to invest in South Africa. They found it a very good, friendly business environment, which they continue to participate in.
And finally, Minister, China, as you know, is the biggest economy in the BRICS group. It's also part of the United Nations Security Council. Would you like to see it try to advance the role of smaller, more developing states in global institutions like the United Nations?
Yes, we continue to call for them to do so, so that we can have an equal voice, all of us at the UN bodies, in particular the UN Security Council. As you are aware, the position of the AU is the Ezuluni Consensus, which calls for 2 positions for the AU, for the member states of the AU, and also with a veto power. So we continue to engage with China to support this position and work with us to ensure that multilateral institutions are truly representative.
Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.